Hello, and welcome to Gwinnett County Victims Community Conversations, a brand new initiative under the new leadership of our District Attorney, Ms. Patsy Austin Gatson. The purpose of this initiative is to discuss different topics of life that help educate the community, spread the awareness, and reduce the gap between the community and the resources that are available for them. I am Uzma Khan, the Director of Witness Victim Program, right here in Gwinnett County District Attorney's Office. Thank you for joining us. Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. How are you all today?
Great.
Great.
Good. Well, thank you so much for joining us today on Gwinnett County Victim Community Conversations. Today's topic is teenage dating. Trust me, it's a nightmare for any parent. And I've got two teenagers right now, so I can tell you from the core of my heart, it is not easy to be a teenage parent. But that's why we're here, to talk about the unease of teenage dating and the crimes that are related to that. So first and foremost, I'm going to have my panel here introduce themselves to our viewers. So tell them who you guys are. We have an amazing panel here, guys. We'll start with Amy.
Hi, my name is Amy Ferguson. I am the managing attorney of the Special Victims Unit here in the Gwinnett County DA's office.
My name is Mandy DeSena. I'm a victim advocate here in the Gwinnett DA's office.
My name is Grace Yanni Hansen. I'm a student at the University of Georgia and Vice President of Philanthropy for Alpha Chi Omega.
My name is Melissa Arthur, and I work with Partnership Against Domestic Violence, and I'm the VP of Prevention Outreach.
All right, so let's dive into it. We're going to start with you, Amy.
Yes.
You deal with these cases in SVU, day in and day out. Teenage dating. It's an amazing phase of our life. World is around our feet, under our feet. We don't want to listen to anybody. All we think is fun. But then sometimes those files land on your table.
Sure.
What do you deal with? What are the charges that are affiliated with any kind of crime that's related to teenage dating? Go ahead and enlighten our community. Tell us what you deal with day in, day out. And it's for real. It happens. It's happening.
Absolutely. So typically, the crimes can run the gamut of they're all serious, but what is less serious to obviously the most serious crimes that we see in the DA's office. Many times they can begin with what would be in the solicitor's office or misdemeanor crimes involving teen dating violence, physical abuse of some type, or other crimes like misdemeanor stalking where a person is trying to control another person that they're dating, and that's typically where it starts, and that can escalate all the way up into sexual crimes or sexual violence against teens who are in a dating relationship.
Gosh.
Yes.
And what are the charges that are affiliated with that?
Well, that could be a lot of things, all the way up into the one that, everybody would be familiar with, like rape, obviously.
Correct.
And many times in situations where teens are dating someone and you get to sexual violence, it would not be what people would traditionally think of as a rape case. You're walking to your car, someone grabs you off the street and forces you to do things that are violent. Lots of times in relationship settings, especially with teenagers, it starts out with, someone maybe trying to coerce you into doing things you don't really want to do. And so it may not look like actual physical violence, but more coercion and other types of heavy persuasion to get you to do things that you don't really want to do. Yeah.
So how do those red flags got ignored? How does that happen? When you look at that, I'm sure when you read the file, you may say, it was all evident. How come you didn't read that?
Well, many times, like most things, when you're in a relationship with somebody, it's easy for someone who is outside of that relationship, certainly once it's gone badly, to look back and say, well, that person should have known. But many times when you're in a relationship, especially for a young person who this may be their first experience with dating or sex or some other things, and we have to talk about sex and teenage
We definitely do.
dating.
Yes, ma'am.
Because that's part of a lot of teenage relationships. And obviously our first message as parents of children in our community is, try to remain abstinent for as long as you can until you're prepared to deal with the emotional
Yes.
and physical consequences of entering
Yes.
into a sexual relationship. And that's what I'm supposed to say as the adult sitting here, but let's talk about the reality of what happens.
Definitely.
So you can think when you get to the end of that and the violence has happened, someone should have recognized that. But typically it doesn't start out that way. It starts out with, someone trying to control your behavior, where you are, who you're communicating with other than them, trying to make sure that they're controlling who you're friends with, the things that you're doing. That can lead all the way up to coercive behavior like, I want you to do this particular thing with me, to me, for me, and you're feeling like, well, I don't really feel comfortable doing that. I don't really want to do it. And you being coerced or persuaded or sometimes even physically forced to do the things that you don't necessarily want to do.
Oh, goodness. So you step in and you don't even know which way you're going.
Right.
Until
And
it
lots of
lands
times
here.
it's happening the progression is so slow and it's happening so gradually that you don't even know you're in something coercive until you're there. Until someone grabs you and you look down and you see a bruise, you're like, oh, I didn't realize that was so aggressive at the time it was happening. Or I did tell him no or her no, and they did it anyway, but I really love and care for this person, so maybe that's okay.
So when we talk about teenage and their dating and the violence that's connected to it, if we may, most of the time we say that girls are targeted. But let's not ignore the fact that guys can be targeted as well. And if they are on the other side, they do get the short end of the stick once the case comes here. Now what are we looking at? So what will be your suggestions? What would you suggest our viewers, our community, for guys? What would you advise them?
Well, I think it's important to note that many victims of physical and sexual abuse are male. I think one thing we have to recognize as people who service victims in this area is that it is many times much more difficult for a male to disclose violence or abuse against them because society kind of deems them to be people who can't say this bad thing is happening to me and I feel badly because it's happening to me. And so many times that can be more difficult. So I would encourage even male victims to have someone they can talk to and someone they can reach out to, and they should disclose as well because for us, all victims are the same. I have as many male victims as I do female victims. Many times the disclosure rates among female victims are much higher, but certainly our response to what has happened to the victim of any kind of crime is the same whether they're male or female.
All right, so now we talk about reach out to help and say something about it. So Mandy, let's talk about your role here. Once the file comes to the DA's office, starts rolling off, now walk us through the judicial system. What is the job of a victim witness advocate here?
So being a victim advocate is a very important part of the DA's office. Working side by side with the attorneys is important because we are the bridge between them, and as far as it goes for putting things in lay terms to explain the process to them. We work under Marcy's Law, which is essentially explaining to them that they have the right to be present for hearings. They have a right to a timely notification of that hearing. They have a right to really just be a part of the whole process from the beginning to end. And to really put that in lay terms for them helps them walk through the whole entire process. We give them services that they need at any time. It is really important to be that bridge for them and to explain to them, you as the victim of this crime deserve to know what's happening from the beginning to the end, have your voice heard, and be a part of the entire process.
Amazing. People majority of the time don't know. Number one, being a victim is not in your control. It just happens, and let alone having to know that you are going to be part of a law in one way or the other. The word law scares the lights out of a normal community member. Now you're among attorneys and judges and all the scary terms that come with the law. So it's good to know that there is someone there that holds your hand while others are working with you to get justice for you, to make you understand what the processes are. That's a very important part of a district attorney's office here, and it's good to know that there is a victim witness program in Gwinnett County. Moving on to Gracie.
Just real quick, Una.
Yes, ma'am.
And also very important, isn't it true that you're the victim's voice even when that voice is in disagreement with what the attorney decides?
Absolutely. So you do hear them out, you hear everything they have to say, but it is always up to the prosecutor what they decide to do with the case, but having the victim being heard is very important to relate to the judge how they feel.
So now that you brought this point out, if the victim is not in agreement, how is that handled? Because coming in as a victim, you're thinking, I'm the victim.
Right.
Sure.
And it's very important. I wanted to bring that up because many times that's the impediment to people who are the victims of crime reporting. They think, well, I really love this person as well. I don't want, them to go to prison for life. That is not always the case. So it's very important that they understand the victim advocate is there to advocate on their behalf. If what they want to see happen with the case is for their loved one to get counseling or them to get counseling together. The victim witness advocate can be the bridge for those things to happen rather than just punishment. Sometimes, obviously, it's unavoidable that punishment is one aspect, but it's important for everyone to note if they do come forward that they will have a voice and be heard as to what happens with their case.
Very interesting. So you come through the system and you have people that will make you understand, but it's not necessary that as you come in as a victim, that what is told to you, what is in your mind that will happen.
Right.
It's all based on understanding of the law and the processes. And then we do
Yes.
have the advocates that are helping them walk through that. Interesting. So now looking at a young person's mind, what goes on in a young mind when the dating process starts? Why the red flags all around are totally ignored? And why the communication with the parents or the resources that are available become so impossible? So as in a sorority, that's one part of my question. The second part is when you deal with the youth coming and you have a lot of passion to try to help out the youth on campus that come to you with the domestic violence cases or any kind of violence that's related to teenage dating. How do you handle that? So go ahead and enlighten us on that.
To start, I think the red flags get ignored just because of the way society is. I think in today's culture, especially in hookup culture, you're looking for that relationship. You want to fit the stereotype in the rom-com movie of coming home with your first boyfriend that you get so just wrapped up in all of it that you ignore the red flags. There's jokes about, every inch over 6 foot, that's a red flag you can ignore. And as a society, we joke about it, but it's not a joke because these girls and men, everybody, are in real danger because they're ignoring these red flags. It's hard to talk to parents about it because there's shame, and two, they don't want to lose their boyfriend. And if their mom or dad says, well, you're ignoring all these red flags, I think it's time for this relationship to end, they've just lost the person that this 15-year-old boy or girl thinks they're going to marry. And it can be hard to overcome that shame, overcome I don't actually have the perfect rom-com relationship. As far as people that have come to me to share their stories, I think the best thing you can do is just to be an ally and just to listen and to show them that they're worth more than that they don't have to put up with the red flags just because they want their first relationship to be perfect, that there is a way to get out of it and there are resources. But if they would like to stay, to just know that they don't have to put up with any of that and that they can have a healthy relationship as a youthful person.
Wow. But boy, does that register in age 15, 16, 17, 18, 19? It's difficult.
35.
35. There's a shift in a society, and you said right, it's for us to fit into this society, the hookup society, or however it may be. We do go through so much, and we accept so much just to be part of the society. Well, Melissa, you deal with a lot of these kind of things in your organization, so tell us how you handle that, and what kind of programs do you have running?
Yes, so with Partnership Against Domestic Violence, we work in Gwinnett County as well as the Domestic Violence Agency for Fulton County. And we have a teen dating violence prevention program. So how we approach it is based on education. When we're dealing with, let's say, our middle school and high school students, we talk to them not from really a dating violence angle, but really from a healthy relationship angle. And that might look like attending our 6-session workshop on what's a healthy relationship and really going over some foundation of a healthy relationship, like effective communication, self-esteem, shared power, express boundaries, so that they know what they should expect within a relationship. Because believe it or not, a lot of youth don't know what a healthy relationship looks like, potentially because maybe they haven't seen it at home. So we really look at it in a point of view of that education's needed, and if we educate someone on what a healthy relationship looks like, then they're less likely to either be in a relationship where they don't know those red flags or they don't know what should be expected in a relationship with a partner. But we also talk to parents as well. We have a micro lesson toolkit that really allows a parent to independently talk to their youth about dating violence. I mean, not dating myself, but I come from an era where certain things aren't talked about with your child. And unfortunately, in the society we live in today, we can't continue with that. We have to have these open conversations and know how to reach the youth or our teenage children that we have. Another thing that we do is a workshop where we do a workshop with the teenager and the parent, and we have these conversations about what teen dating violence looks like. We give a safe environment for teens to be able to express themselves, what their barriers are and their fears. Because just like in dating violence with adults or any form of domestic violence with adults relationships, teenagers have barriers as well. I mean, Gracie mentioned some of them, you know, the images that they see on TV. They're seeing a snapshot on social media of someone's life, and they don't know that there's other aspects to that, or they're seeing movies or TV shows that are telling them what a relationship should be like, and they're trying to live up to that. Sometimes being in these relationships, they don't want to leave the person because what if they are comfortable sharing things with this person that is fearful to let other people know? Like we find in our LGBTQ plus community, sometimes the relationship person the person they're in the relationship with is a person they can confide in that is going through the same boundaries and obstacles that they're going through. And sometimes getting out of these relationships might mean being threatened that they're going to be outed and not wanting to leave. So there's barriers for youth the same way that there's barriers for adults with leaving these types of relationships. And even though they might know these red flags, I think us as a community just trying to educate and really remove a lot of the barriers really help the youth be able to be in more healthy relationships.
I totally agree with you, Melissa. I mean, having these uncomfortable conversations, the topics that sometimes people don't want to hear about. We know it. Sometimes it's hush-hush. Sometimes it's just the adjustment into the community. Yes, the society has shifted, but this has to be discussed. And based on that, we are having our community conversations right here, starting in Gwinnett County. So looking at the problem, we look at the problem, we hear the problem, we see the problem, we feel the problem, we deal with the problem. The law is dealing with the problem as well. So I would like to end this session on a very positive note. We understand the problem, but let's talk about the resolution. And you guys in bits and pieces have said a few things that were part of the resolution. So I'll start with Amy. Looking at the red flags for parents, what do you suggest them? Looking at the red flags that are totally being missed by the teenagers as they're going through the dating process, what would you suggest them to resolute the crimes that are affiliated with teenage dating?
Well, the first thing I would say as a parent of a teen, when you see some of the red flags, some of the controlling behavior, some of my child has to report in to this boyfriend or girlfriend or get permission from that person, to make sure that you're not judging your child for what they are exploring as a new relationship or as their new foray into relationships. And to try to, like Melissa said, keep the communication open so that you can discuss with your child and not immediately say, you have to cut off all contact with this person who you care about or who you think you love or who you may even love. And so I think that's the positive thing we can say, is to try to keep a good open line of communication with your child. And the same for the teenager. Your parents many times have gone through lots of these things. I know they appear now to be beyond all of that, but they have gone through things like that. And so just say to your parent, I want to talk to you, but I don't want judgment. I just want you to hear me and then hopefully give me some advice or somewhere to go from here.
Good. That could be the key. Again, communication is the key. And for a parent to open that line of communication, it's very important. Mandy.
I would say something really important is know your worth. Nobody deserves to go through anything like that, male, female. I mean, just know your worth. Talk about things. There are people out there that have been through it. There are resources out there. Speak up. Speak out about it. It's 2021. Times have changed. We have to talk about these things.
Definitely. Gracie?
I agree with both of those. Also, just being an ally and continuing the no judgment, being the person that directs them to those resources, but knowing that you don't have to put up with things because you want the perfect rom-com relationship.
Definitely.
And just to add, because I think everyone has already covered such excellent points, but what I would just say is just understand how education is really, really key in this for the parents as well as for the teens, and being able to communicate with each other, but then also being willing to inform yourself about what it might look like for your teen. Because although we have gone through some of these experiences, things have changed, and just being that open ear and knowing that they can come to you and reach out and be able to not have that judgment.
So I thank you all for being here, investing your time, sharing your expertise, your knowledge, and resources with the community. And thank you to all our viewers for being here with us as we carry on our conversations.